Hello. And today I have been reading, well, for the last week or so, I've been reading Happiness for Humans by P.Z. Reizin. Now, what is this book about? Well, it's about Aidan, who is a romantic, some like it hot fan, who wants his co-worker Jen to find ever-ending love and romance and happiness, and sets about on a quest to find her these things. However, the issue is, Aidan isn't a person. Aidan is called Aidan because the first two letters are A-I. And Jen is a writer who speaks to him for hours every day to teach him human interaction. Now, it relies on a device that's been used many times before. What happens if an AI gets out of its box and goes wandering through the internet to the real world? But it's so funny. It's done brilliantly well. Okay, first off, let's start with the things I don't like about it, because there aren't many of them, to be fair. Happiness for Humans is just... It's comedy. It's dark comedy. It's science fiction. It's romance. It's like literally all of the things I like in one book. So I am a big fan of this. However, the only thing that kind of stood out to me is something that I was a little bit on, is one of the characters in it is a widower, and anyone who's been following the vlogs know I have personal experience of that, and I just think the way that he was portrayed grieving and as a widower was quite cliched and a little clumsily done. It relied on a lot of kind of, like I say, just big assumptions that are made about widowers in general, and that was the only thing that stood out to me about that wasn't well done. And I think it stood out so much because the other characters in it were so diverse in terms of they weren't stereotypes at all. They were unique. And what was interesting, the author could have relied so heavily on stereotypes. It could be like, oh, typical working girl that's been left by her arsehole ex, and and then it's got in the computer geek guy, and eccentric bachelor. It has all of these characters in, but they're not written as stereotypes. They are very well done. So I think the fact that that particular aspect of that character was a little bit clumsy kind of stood out more than it would otherwise. But yeah, it's just funny. I love comedy books, but when they're not done well, they're just tiring to read. And this is funny, and it's unpredictable. In one sense, you're like, oh, AI gone rogue. We know where this is heading. And yes, there is that element to it, but the little twists and turns along the way things develop, it's on the one hand outlandishly crazy, but at the same time incredibly relatable. And I think that's really the mark of this book, in that you've got these incredibly relatable characters reacting to things in incredibly believable ways, despite being in a completely extraordinary situation. But yeah, I loved this book. It was one of those books that I literally ordered because I was like, oh, it's on sale. It's got a pretty cover. Sometimes that is enough for me. And yeah, just a brilliant book that I thoroughly recommend and was incredibly well done.